This will be my final Tour de Fleece video this year. I'm going to recap how it went for me, tell you about a few things that I plan on changing for next year, and show you everything I finished. Hi everyone, welcome back to my Tour de Fleece series. It kind of became a series, so I guess I can call it that. This was my first Tour de Fleece taking it seriously. The past year, maybe 2 years, I have kind of lightly participated, but this year I decided to start on the start day and stay dedicated to it. I didn't join a team, but since I ended up spinning everything from stash, I kind of wish that I would have joined one of the Stash Dasher teams that Melly Knits was hosting. I'll talk more about this at the end of the video, but this year I just spun on my own and of course shared my progress here. I had 2 ideas for the tour this year. The first is that I wanted to finally learn long draw, and the second is that I wanted to start my next sweater spin. I also vlogged all 3 weeks of the tour, which kept me really focused on spinning. I think it kind of held me accountable to finishing things. And it was also just fun to show my progress each week and keep me organized, keep me thinking about what I had just finished and what I had left to do. To prep for the tour, I started by choosing the fiber for my combo spin, which I vlogged the process of. As I mentioned, I spun everything from stash, so I went stash diving and I chose a variety of different fiber types, including Falkland Merino, Cormo, South American wool, and Polwarth. These were braids from Hello Yarn, Nest Fiber, and Neighborhood Fiber Co., and I have exactly what I used on my Ravelry project page. And then I did some research into long draw. I've read about woolen-spun yarns for a while now, but to prep, I watched some tutorials and read more in depth about how the technique works in order to learn it. Starting on day 1 of the tour, which was a Saturday, I prepped all of my fiber. This was a mistake because this took a lot of time. It took up most of my day. And the only reason I prepped everything on day 1 is just that I didn't have the time before to organize everything and figure out what I was doing and get it ready. I also used the first 2 days to figure out what pattern I wanted to knit for my combo spin. I knew that I wanted to spin for a sweater, but I didn't exactly know what pattern I wanted, so I used some time to figure out all of those details. And I also had some other things going on that I knew would prevent me from spinning every day of the tour. For part of it, I had some family in town. We were also finishing up a major renovation on our staircase that had a deadline because we needed to finish that project so that we could actually walk up and down our staircase, and other commitments that took up my free time, so I knew that I wasn't going to be able to spin every single day, but I did try, and I think that's what counts. Another thing that made my tour this year a little challenging is that long draw is tricky to learn, and it took some time for me to get it down. I felt like I was learning to spin again, which definitely slowed me down, but I kept practicing and I finally figured it out. And this was also a chance to try out a bat for the first time. I spun from a hand-carded bat from Melly Knits. So as I mentioned, I started a little bit slow at the beginning of the tour due to my weekend prep and my other commitments, but I finally got the hang of long draw and I was feeling pretty confident about it, and by the end of week 1, I finished my first skein. The Melly Knits bat that I got was a blend of a bunch of different fiber types, so I actually don't know what kind of fiber this is. I just know that it's really pretty, it's very soft, and I ended up spinning about a sport weight. It's somewhere around 12 wraps per inch, I think, and I ended up getting 305 yards out of this. This is 107 grams or 3.75 ounces. So that's the first skein, which I think turned out amazing. I also had a little bit left over and I made this mini skein. During week 1, I also spun a sample for my combo spin, and I knit a swatch out of that sample. So this confirmed that I was liking my plan and I wanted to continue with what I had decided. So this is the output of week 1, which is pretty good since there were a few days that I couldn't spin. By the middle of the second week, I had finished my first skein for my combo spin. So this is where things really started to get exciting because I got to see what a full skein looked like for my sweater. I spun all of these skeins worsted style, so I used a short forward draft, And if you want to know how I prepared the fiber to get it to look like this, you can watch my first vlog. But basically I just randomized all the fiber and picked it out of a basket without looking. And this is what I got for the first skein. This is 343 yards. It is about a DK weight. All of my combo spin skeins ended up between 1,000 and 1,100 yards per pound, so they're pretty close in grist. I would say close enough to use them in the same project. This is 153 grams or 5.4 ounces, which is similar to what all of my skeins ended up being. I did weigh all of my fiber before spinning it into the skein to try to get my skeins to be somewhat equal, mostly just for the aesthetics of having similar size skeins to show you. So I finished this skein on July 16th, and this started a pretty good cadence of me finishing each of my combo spin skeins about every 4 to 5 days, which means that I finished a total of 3 of these skeins. So I was feeling really good that I was hitting my spinning goals. I was feeling like maybe it is achievable to spin what I wanted to get done, which was around 700 grams. Spoiler alert, I didn't end up hitting that, but I did get pretty close. Week 3 was when I really got to do the bulk of my spinning. At this point, I was cruising. I basically had the entire weekend to spin. I also had a day off from work, and most of my evenings were free. And this is when I finished 2 more of my combo spin skeins. So if you watched my vlogs, this is the final skein that I finished on the last day, but I hadn't washed it and skeined it up yet to show you. And so here's how it turned out, and here it is compared to the skein before that, and all 3 skeins. It's really interesting how the first and the last skein ended up looking very similar, at least skeined up. My children are trying to get out of my arms, but I don't want them to. And then here's the middle skein, which has a lot more of that pink and also more brown in it, and I think more green too. So it's kind of interesting how different they turned out, but they're pretty cohesive, I think. I can't wait to see these knit up. I have just the sleeve fiber left. I decided to split the fiber into body fiber and sleeve fiber. These skeins are all for the body, so I just have the sleeves left, which is about 1/3 of the total fiber, so I'm very close. But let me stop going off on my tangent and tell you the stats of each of these. It's a good thing I labeled which skein is which, because I truly couldn't remember. So my second skein is 373 yards, and it ended up being 161 grams or 5.7 ounces, just over 1,000 yards per pound. And my third skein ended up being 373 yards. Is that the same as the other one? That's weird. These are the exact same yardage. But it is a little bit lighter, so my grist is just a little bit off. It is 151 grams or 5.35 ounces, and it's just at 1,100 yards per pound. I finished this one on the 16th, this one on the 20th, and this one on the 26th. I also did some other things during week 3 that were spinning adjacent. I scoured some fleece that I had been wanting to scour for a while. I set up my drum carder and I carded my first bat. And on the final day of the tour, just in time, yes, I did finish spinning the skein from that bat. So this is a sample of some Navajo churro that I processed and carded just as it came. This was tough to both process and spin because it's very coarse. Navajo churro has these guard hairs, or this outer coat, that is just very hairy. And I mean, you can see in my skein that there's a lot of these hairs that are sticking out from the skein. As I was spinning, I quickly figured out that long draw was the best way to spin this because Navajo churro has a very long staple length. I think mine was maybe like 6 to 8 inches, but I've read that they can be 6 to 12 inches. I did find a few neps in my bat, which are these tiny pieces of fiber that are caused from either second cuts or breakage. And they add a lot of texture if you spin them in. So as I spun, I just picked those out. And this this sample ended up being about a bulky weight, maybe an Aran. It is 60 yards, it's 45 grams or 1.6 ounces, and it's 600 yards per pound. Navajo Churro is a really cool breed. It's a conservation breed. It is one of, if not the oldest sheep breed in North America. The reason this sheep breed is called Navajo Churro is that the Navajo Nation, or Diné, shepherded these sheep, and that's why we still have them today. So these sheep are very important to Native Americans as well as some Hispanic communities in the Southwest. The Diné have formed a nonprofit that sponsors the Sheep is Life project if you want to read more about it, about the history and also how people are continuing this important tradition of shepherding these sheep. A lot of Navajo rugs are made from Navajo Churro still to this day. I'm not sure what I will make out of the fleece that I have. I think it would be cool to try to make a rug or maybe a blanket out of it. But I started processing the rest of the fleece that I have, and I decided to skirt it to separate out the outer coat from the inner coat. So these guard hairs that you see will be separate from the softer inner coat. And then I'm going to card up and spin just the inner coat. I'm definitely keeping the outer coat. I haven't quite decided what I'm going to do with it yet, but I think it would be really nice to weave at some point. I don't weave right now, so that would be another skill to learn, but I will report back on how all of that goes. Are you ready for the grand total of what I finished this tour de fleece? I completed 5 skeins, and that was a total of 595 grams, which is 100 grams less than my goal. Pretty good, I would say. That converts to 1.3 pounds or 1,482 yards. All in all, that is the most I've ever spun in this short of a period. Tour de Fleece was really a great thing for me to participate in this year. I learned a new technique, how to spin long draw. I kept up the momentum with my combo spin in a way that I never have before with my spinning. There were many evenings where I wanted to knit. I think I just wanted to like sit back on the couch and relax and knit, or I kind of didn't want to do anything at all. But due to setting this goal, I chose to spin even when I could have talked myself out of it. And because of that, I am nearing the end of my combo spin in just 3 weeks. For context, the last sweater spin I did, which was for my traveler, took me 6 months to complete. I also took on the challenge of trying to spin banana fiber and did a lot of research into that before realizing that what I had probably wasn't meant to be hand spun. That fiber had sat in my stash for over 2 years before this tour pushed me to actually look into it. But to be real about it as well, this tour was pretty challenging. It's hard to commit to an external schedule. I find share challenges hard because there's always something else going on in my life at the same time that makes it hard for me to stick to the schedule. But that's also what makes it meaningful to join something like this, because it forces you to prioritize something that you want to do, but that can easily fall to the bottom of your to-do list when you have a lot going on. And that's not easy to do like all the time. So for me, I like when there's a deadline because I know it's not going to last forever, but here's this community of people who are all trying to do the same thing. And there's also some accountability to it, so that helps. So there are a few things for next year that I want to do differently. I already touched on one, which is I want to prep everything before day 1. I also decided that I think I want to join a team. This was something I wasn't that interested in this year, even though it does look like a fun thing to do. But I just felt like, oh, I don't have the time to commit to posting in a group chat every day. And what if I don't spin as much as I thought I would and I let somebody else down? But as this tour went on, I realized that it's not as much pressure as I was thinking it was. And it's really just a fun thing to do to connect with other people. So I would really like to do that next year. I would also like to spin more than I did this year. Now, this sort of depends on what my life looks like. Maybe I'll be busier in other ways. So I'm not committing to anything, but I would like to spin more than 600 grams. And as for things that I would like to keep doing, I think next year I would like to work on another big project, like maybe another combo spin. This was so much fun to work on. I felt like I was able to keep my momentum up. I was very motivated to work on it. And because these skeins are all part of one project and I'm so close to the finish line, I feel like I just got so much satisfaction out of that, probably more than I would have if I spun a bunch of individual skeins. I really like seeing everyone's different skeins, so I think it's really fun to look at a variety. But as far as myself and what I like to work on, I just like large projects that have an end. That's just how I like to work. And I learned that being able to work on one project and devote a lot of time to it within this 3-week period just makes so much sense for me, and is something that I like a lot. So that's my little retrospective of Tour de Fleece this year, my first year actually participating in somewhat of a real way. I also want to mention that the tour is not over. That was just the men's race, and the women's race is full speed ahead. Tour de France Femme is currently going, and I'm still spinning. I know a lot of people continue to finish out the entire tour. Some people do stop after 3 weeks because it is a lot of spinning. I'm not necessarily trying to spin every day for the rest of the tour, but I am spinning a lot and I'm trying to finish my sweater spin. If you participated in the tour this year, I would love to know how your experience went. I know a lot of people have already shared what they're working on, which I just love to hear about. And if you didn't participate but are thinking about it next year, did I convince you to join? I will definitely be participating again. It's just a fun time to try to spin as much as we can in a 3-week period. I don't really pay that close attention to the actual races. I loosely check in every now and then, but I'm not necessarily a cycling fan. But that's the good thing about it, is you don't have to be. The only connection to the actual Tour de France is just that we spin when they spin. If you're still spinning, good luck. Keep spinning. You've got this. You will be hearing about my knitting with this yarn soon. So if you're not here for the spinning, but you're just here for the knitting, don't worry, I'll be talking about that again very soon. Although if you're not here for the spinning and you made it this far into the video, you must be a true fan, so thank you so much. Once again, I just want to say a huge thank you for being here, and I'll see you in another video soon. Bye!